Okay, so now I've got x is equal to 1 plus or minus, what is that? That's the square root of minus 7, right? Uh-oh, what is that?
It's an imaginary number.
It's imaginary. Now if I graph this, is an imaginary going to show up on your graph?
No.
No, never, never, never. They don't show up because they're imaginary. You only imagine that they're there. It's not real. Over 2. So how can I, what do I change this to? To be in proper form, what should it be? X equals what?
Plus or minus.
1 plus or minus.
Square root of 7i. Or square root of
7i times the square root of 7 over 2. And there are your other two answers. Okay, again, it's a cubic equation. How many solutions are we supposed to get? Only 3. We can't get any more than 3. We found one negative because we were intelligent. We used Descartes' rule of signs, and we said there aren't any positives. So we had a negative solution. We found one. We found this, and then we had to use the quadratic formula to solve it. And there are my other two. There's 1 plus I times the square root of 7, and there's 1 minus I square root of 7.
So are those two imaginary?
Yes, ma'am. So I've got 2 imaginaries and 1 negative. There are my 3 solutions.
So it's x minus 1. There's 1 at the bottom.
All right, so does everybody understand how I got that? That's what?
And how do you write out the factors? Is it like x minus 1 or?
I'm sorry. Ask your question again.
How do you write out the factors? You just like leave it like.
Oh, how do you write the factors? Good question. So what I'll do is I'd write the factors like this. So x minus plus 1 is 1, right?
Right.
Why is it x plus 1 and not x minus 1?
Because it's 0.
Yeah, because minus 1 is a 0, so I have to write plus 1. Because if I plug a minus 1 in there, it gives me a
Positive.
0. If I plug a minus 1 into this, I get a 0, right?
Oh, right.
And it tells you that minus 1 is a 0 of the equation. So that's how you write it. So the other one is over here, I have to write my other ones. X minus, what do I write?
X is I.
1 plus I times the square root of 7 over 2. And what's the other factor? X minus 1 minus I times the square root of 7 over 2. And those are my 2 factors. Does everybody follow that?
Yeah.
Now, remember that problem we did yesterday and everybody had a problem with it because we had the i's in there and we were working backwards?
Yeah.
Okay, so what if I had given you the question that I want you to give me a 3rd degree polynomial that has a root of minus 1 and 1 plus I times the square root of 7 over 2. Tell me what the equation is.
X cubed.
And this is exactly what you would do. You would list this, you'd work backwards, and you'd end up with this. So all you're doing is you're doing this process that we just did backwards. You want me? Do we need to go over that? Okay, now.
I'm gonna have to do it on myself.
Huh? You probably won't have to do the one like this, but there will be one like we did yesterday, which is I'm going to give you a 0, and I'm going to give you a 1 of the real solutions. And you have to tell me what the equation is. There is a question like that on the test.
That sounds difficult.
Lillian, is that really a difficult process? Lillian came after school yesterday and spent about, 15 minutes with me? And after the first 2 minutes, she got it, working a couple of problems, and she was able to pretty much solve anything I threw at her from that point on. Again, if you're having problems with this stuff, it's your responsibility to recognize that, hey, I got a problem, I don't know how to do this, and come in after school. I'll be more than happy to help you out. But you gotta recognize that you have a deficiency and you want to correct it. Okay? So here we go. Any questions on this again? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll go to another one. All right, so you've got a fourth degree polynomial that has roots of 2 with a multiplicity of 2, and f of 5 is equal to 783. Which of the following correctly models the function? Ooh, you guys have never seen one like this before.
Wait, just a sec.
So I'm going to model it for you, but I want you guys to help me. Tommy, you need to pay attention on this one because there's something like this on the test. There's actually something like this on your review.
Yeah.
What is it? Which number?
Number
I
11.
think it was number
It's
13.
number 11.
It's number 11, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
This tells you some information that you have to figure out. But for right now, you need to solve this part first. So
What does that
let's,
say? And two what?
and
2i?
2i. Here you go. Easier to read now. So again, I want you all's help. I don't know how to solve this. Seriously, I don't know how to solve this. So you guys are going to have to help me. So what do I do first?
Right.
X
What do I know?
Minus.
Well, you know that 2
You know
multiplied 2 means like just 2.
I know it's got a root of 2, so what do I write down? I mean, there's so much
X
stuff.
minus
X
2
minus
parentheses squared.
Oh, okay, so I'm going to write down x minus 2 squared?
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Why are you writing x minus 2? It says that 2, that's a positive 2. Why am I writing a negative 2?
Because in the graph you always flip it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we did that on the graphs yesterday, didn't we?
Yep.
And this is another thing. When you in higher level mathematics courses, you have to recognize that the equation and the graph are not two separate things. It's the same thing. The graph and the equation are the same. So when you're thinking about the graph, or any graph, you can apply those same concepts to any equation. So here's an instance where we applied the general knowledge of our graphs, so when we did the other day, and we said we know how to set the factor because we did it on the graphs, right? So again, here's x minus 2 squared. What else do we know?
2i, so X.
2i.
So what's the other factor that I need to write down?
Parentheses X minus
X minus what?
2i. 2i.
2i. Okay. Is that all that I know?
Yeah.
Well, you
no,
know,
and it's
and
a pair, so
F-
x plus 2i.
Well, how do you know there's a pair of these?
Because imaginary numbers always
Complex something travels together.
That's right. Complex
Yeah.
solutions always come in pairs. You can't ever get one without the other. You're always going to have a plus and a minus. So because I know I've got an x minus 2i, that means I've also got an x plus 2i. And that is all the information that I need to build that polynomial equation. Does everybody follow me to that point?
Yeah.
Everybody clear on it? All right. So now what do I do?
You move the parentheses.
First parentheses.
Yeah, first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these because, look, I immediately recognize this. If I'm good with factoring, I say, hey, wait a minute. That looks like the difference of squares to me.
Yeah.
And I can work backwards to get an equation that I can use. Because you can't use imaginary numbers when you're writing a polynomial, right? So difference of squares. What would my difference of squares be if I'm putting these back together to get the squares? X squared
X squared.
minus, because it's the difference of squares. And what's my y term going to be?
2i
Not
squared.
2i,
2i
but it's going
squared,
to
which
be
is
2i,
should be
2i in
positive.
parentheses squared. Does everybody see that?
Yes.
So now I'm going to come in here and say x squared minus, what is 2i squared?
4. Negative 4.
4i squared.
Well, 4.
So 4i squared. Does everybody follow that?
Yeah.
What is I squared?
Negative 4.
Negative 1.
Negative 1.
So I can write this as x, and you don't have to write down all these steps. If you can go in your head and you can do it all, that's great. But x minus 4 times the minus 1. What is that going to give me?
X
X squared plus.
Positive 4.
X squared plus 4. Does everybody follow me to there?
Yeah.